So since the beginning of the DNC chair race, we've seen the Democratic Party establishment pull out all the stops to try to disqualify Keith Ellison. So first, what they immediately did was launch a smear campaign against him in order to suggest that he's an anti-Semite, but this has been debunked. And second of all, they've tried to disqualify him by saying that he's not taking this gig seriously enough, and that the reason why Debbie Wasserman Schultz was an unsuccessful DNC chair was not because she was corrupt and rigged the primary, but because she served in the House of Representatives and was also the DNC chair. So they say, this isn't a part-time gig, this is a full-time job. So what Keith Ellison did was back them into a corner and say, look, if you want this to be a full-time job for me, then I will resign from the House of Representatives in order to be a full-time DNC chair. So rather than conceding the race to someone who's the clear favorite, who would potentially unify the party who's divided right now, well, the Democratic Party is now scrounging for anything they can get to smear Keith Ellison, and they're getting desperate. The Hill explains Ellison's critics in the DNC and some supporters of Labor Secretary Tom Perez, the other top candidate, are pointing to the Minnesota Democrats' past tax troubles, campaign finance violations, and minor legal issues that once led to his driver's license being suspended as evidence that he's ill-equipped to lead the DNC. Some of those instances date back to the 1990s. All of the issues have been rectified and were previously used in attacks against Ellison during his first run for House in 2006. That year, Ellison's then-wife, Kim Ellison, who acted as his campaign treasurer, wrote to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune to accept responsibility for all of the violations. At the time, Kim Ellison said that memory loss associated with her multiple sclerosis was the reason for the unpaid traffic tickets, late campaign finance reports, and household bookkeeping errors. But Ellison's detractors within the DNC say that it's evidence that he can't manage his personal life and would be a poor choice to manage an institution the size of the DNC. Bob Mulholland, a DNC member from California, one of 447 who will vote in the February election, says he has not backed a candidate yet but will not support Ellison. One Republican said to me, "You're going to elect a tax cheat who drives without a license?" Mulholland said, "It's absurd." Now, just to remind you, again, as was stated in the article, everything that they're trying to use against him has been rectified. And I think he actually has a legitimate excuse. His wife, who was suffering from multiple sclerosis, is taking responsibility from it. That disease, it's horrible. Like, we have a family friend who suffered from it, and over the years we watched her deteriorate, and it's so sad. So I think that's a legitimate excuse. I mean, they're getting desperate here, and this guy Bob Mulholland, who claims he's not going to vote for Keith Ellison because he's worried about what Republicans think. How about this? Why don't you stop worrying about what Republicans think once and for all and just do what's good for the party? But you see, you don't want to do what's ultimately good for the party because you know that what's good for the party is to abandon the Democratic Party's donors and turn towards the grassroots wing of the party, which is the Bernie Sanders wing. The fact that the DNC would resort to these types of smear tactics, it's just showing not only that they're getting desperate, but that they have no shame whatsoever. And mark my words, if you do not allow Keith Ellison to be the DNC chair, if you refuse to vote for him, and you pick an establishment Clintonista shill like Tom Perez, you will not win over the Bernie wing of the party. And that's going to be your own fault because you could only slap someone in the face so many times and expect them to still be friends with you. And the relationship actually with the Democratic Party and their base has been more like an abusive spouse. They continue to abuse you and they keep saying, where are you going to go? You can't go to the Republicans because you don't like them. You can't go to the Greens because, you know, they're never going to win. So you got to stay with us. That's the attitude that they have. But what we're doing is we're standing up for once and saying, no, we're not going to allow you to walk all over us. We are going to put forward a progressive that we actually like. And if you don't like it, tough shit. You step aside. We're the ones who had the primary rigged against us, and you should be doing everything right now to kiss our asses. But the fact that they're still doing exactly what they did during the primary proves that they did not learn their lesson, and they don't want to learn their lesson. The party is rotten to the core, and if those 447 people don't vote for Keith Ellison, the party is done. You have people like Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid who are as out of touch as you can possibly get in Washington, actually swallowing their pride and endorsing Keith Ellison because they know that there's a divide in the party. They want to win. But most of the establishment are not learning their lesson, and they don't want to learn their lesson. They want to continue to be corrupt and do business as usual. Well, if you keep doing that, you won't have any voters left to betray. So keep it up, because we're watching, and if you don't support Keith Ellison and vote for Keith Ellison, you're done.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.